How's it going, everyone? My name is Brett. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another Dead Space Remake developer live stream reaction. So yeah, the team at Motive did say that they were gonna release a live stream in the next few months, and well, it's here right now. Of course, this is once again the post live stream because, well, once again, I was sleeping at the time. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's cooking in the oven for the Dead Space remake. So yeah, we are gonna watch Dead Space Crafting the Tension. So I imagine this is gonna talk about more about the horror aspect of the remake, the scares and the atmosphere. But what really caught my eye with the title is crafting the tension, specifically the word crafting. So that's definitely an interesting word to put in the title of this live stream because in Dead Space 3, we had the crafting system, making your weapons, crafting your weapons, making them uber powerful, and of course, crafting ammo and health and all kinds of resources. So I'm curious if they're gonna carry some level of the crafting system from the third game into the remake. Now, I'm not expecting them to have full-on weapon customization because, well, once again, that would just kind of break, the gameplay balance, the weapon balance. I'm pretty certain that we're still gonna buy the original weapons from the store, but I do imagine them bringing some level of the crafting system in the third game into the remake, specifically making your own ammo or making your own health packs or even making your own upgrades. I mean, I can see that with like the workbench. Like, not only can you upgrade your weapons, but you can also craft ammo and health and all that kind of stuff. But again, we'll have to see, and if the crafting system in the third game does get reintroduced into the remake in some degree. But yeah, we're gonna watch the live stream, which is about an hour and 26 minutes. But of course, this is. But of course, the first 15 minutes, it's mostly just, warming us up, to get us, we're just seeing like screenshots and concept art of the remake. But, I will definitely skip ahead to the part where, well, we're actually seeing the actual live stream. So yeah, I will see you guys in a bit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, let's begin. May contain content inappropriate for children. No shit, Sherlock. So once again, they're warming us up with the teaser trailer. All right. And of course, as tradition, I do got my Dead Space shirt. Again, I do have another one, but it's black, so it wouldn't exactly fit well with like the color of my chair. I would pretty much just be, just a floating head, very much. All right, Motive, what do you got for us? Hello, guys. Guys.
Bonjour à tous. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for listening to this third video stream.
Yeah, I think that might be a delay.
I'm with Roman Campos Oriera, creative director.
Hello, everyone.
Mike Yazijan, art director. I'm for content for Dead Space today. More. The art direction of the original Dead Space was extremely strong.
So it fixed itself.
It had a distinctive visual signature that set it apart from other games.
Yes, the art style was very unique.
Our presentation today with Mike talking about the visual pillars and how it's used as the foundation for the game. Then we'll move at looking at assets that was created by our team through videos that explain how we use these visual pillars from an architectural and environment pieces, from lighting, from VFX, and characters. And just like last times, we're gonna wrap all of this up with some in-game look at one of their more iconic rooms of the
pretty much a demo.
That room's gonna turn on, so it's gonna be pretty amazing. All right, just like past live streams, there is a disclaimer. We are still pre-alpha, so
early build.
Really what it means is that the content
not the final product.
Uneven in terms of quality. There's going to be assets showcasing gems from the editor straight out, looking placeholder, some buggy stuff, that's normal for the stage of the project that we're in.
There's going to be some amazing stuff also.
Well, there's also going to be some pretty amazing stuff. Hopefully that you agree with us. However, we're progressing very well for our alpha deliverables. Just 2 weeks ago, we were able to do our first full walkthrough of the game where all content was present. And next week, we are going to do this with our community council. The community council, for those of you who don't know, is a group of passionate fans that have been with us since early in the conception of the project, providing feedback and getting undisclosed access to the game that we're making. And just like past live streams, we actually have a member of the community council that's here with us today. We have Blaine Smith from Banger TV joining us. Hey Blaine, how are you?
Yeah, he has a very similar shirt as I do.
To be able to talk,
or at least the logo of it.
Definitely happy to be able to, have this sweet baseball tee from y'all featuring the Ishimura. Although
yeah,
I am getting a little insecure watching how it fits Romain versus how it fits the rest of us. Not quite filling it out the same way.
You have more tattoos.
The jealous factor.
So,
all right. Well, let's kick it off, right? Let's start.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about art today, which I mean is definitely one of the strongest aspects of Dead Space. And of course, we have a fantastic guest from Motive here. We have an art director in the house, but I don't know if necessarily all of us will know exactly what an art director does. So do you want to fill us in on what your work on the Dead Space game has been so far?
sorry, I got no audio on this.
So what's an art director then?
Okay. What's an art director? That's a good question. So what I usually do is my day-to-day is I collaborate with Roman and Phil and the other directors and the leads on the project. I work very closely with the art team. I provide them with guidelines to make sure that the visuals look unified across the game. And I maintain the artistic vision throughout the project to keep a consistent look in all our chapters. So I think that kind of summarizes what I do.
Yeah, pretty much.
And from what I understand, this also actually isn't your first Dead Space game.
Oh, we actually lost audio from Blaine.
Audio dropped.
Oh no! Oh no!
From Blaine's side.
You'll have to mime Blaine, I guess. Oh, you're gonna draw.
He is gonna write it. That's funny.
Gonna write it down.
All right. Well, actually, we'll kick it off on our side until we resume like the issue with the microphone. I think it's on our side. So, Mike, why don't you
technical
walk us through
difficulties.
actually
Absolutely.
some of the art direction pillars?
That's great. So what we're going to do today is through various images and videos,
Honor the
we're going to
legacy.
show you how we're honoring the legacy and staying true to the original game. So what we want to do first is look at some of the art pillars that define and influence the Dead Space look. So the first and most important one is horror storytelling. So
Horror.
even though the Dead Space universe is set hundreds of years in the future, the main art pillar is horror as opposed to sci-fi or fiction. Since it's so important to us, we really are like doubling down on that, and we just can't get enough. We need to talk
Two
more
slides,
about
right? Horror is
so the
a
lighting,
double
the
pillar
mood,
in
the
the game.
atmosphere, the color palette of the locations are all affected by this pillar. I mean, it also influences the look of the necromorphs, gore, dismemberment,
Blood.
and corruption. And it goes as far as influencing the design of the weapons, right? Because they're based on power tools. So that kind of sums up the first pillar.
Immersion.
The second key visual.
Everything that the
is
player
one of
sees,
immersion.
Isaac
So,
can see.
to be scared, you have to believe what's in front of you. Just like in the original Dead Space, our goal is to always maintain a sense of immersion, to keep the player captivated and the settings believable and grounded. So the third pillar is a lived-in world. Now, since the Dead Space universe is rich in environmental storytelling, every object tells a story and has a meaning. So when you look around, when you're in the Ishimura, you see the effects of aging and weathering everywhere you look. So another key thing is resource conservation, right? That is key in the universe, and all the objects are repurposed and reconfigured. So that's quite important to us. So those are the main three visual pillars of Dead Space.
It's not a new ship. Like it's been used,
Oh
it's been
no,
around.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like a
It's
60-old,
years
yeah,
old.
60-old
You
ship.
say the,
It's
ship.
quite
living
old.
world because
And,
Yeah, it's
uh,
60-old ship.
what we've
Ship.
learned from
Wow.
this
I mean, I know you're talking, but we still.
It's an old ship. Let's just say that.
So, but actually, like one of the things that we're
Oof,
looking
yeah,
at
I really need to get it
is
together.
it's actually
Cool
there's
shit.
a lot of symbolism, right, in
Right.
the original Dead Space.
Yes.
So let's have a look at what roles it plays in the art for Dead Space.
Absolutely. So there is a lot of symbolism in Dead Space, and I want to show you some of that and how it influences the look and mood of the game. So for example, we've talked about this on many occasions during the community council before. The Ishimura is like a haunted house, and the design is influenced by the Gothic architecture with lots of evocative shapes.
Like ribs.
So that's quite prominent. The second one is how Ishimura is a character. It's a broken machine that is alive and sick, both physically and mentally, and the user interface is its voice. It sort of talks to us.
And
The locations, they're purposely built with low ceilings and narrow spaces to
very
make you feel
tight.
claustrophobic, like you're trapped inside a maze.
We'll see later how we actually reinforce that with
Absolutely.
lighting and VFX.
Yes. And then lastly, the necromorphs, right? Since you're on a haunted ship, a haunted house, they're like the ghosts that haunt Isaac and torment him on his journey to hell,
Pretty much.
all the way to his final destination. So that essentially summarizes some of the key, symbolism that you find in the game. What we wanted to do next is, cover, like, now that we've covered the symbolism, we want to look at how we're updating the classic by looking at visual upgrades for the remake. So what we could do is maybe play the video of the props and weapons. So in 2008, the original dev team created a game that was amazing for its time, and it's our commitment to respect their vision and rebuild on the same pillars. We're taking the original game and building the Gen 5 version and keeping the recipe that we all know and love. As you can see from these before and after examples, we're using the original art as a starting point as we redesign and remake the assets from the ground up. We're retaining the overall shape and look of these objects to respect the Dead Space art direction, and we're adding more
shiny.
functionality, layers
Very
of
metallic.
detail, and a lot more realistic materials. So as you can see in these examples, before and after.
Very detailed, very wear and tear.
Now you see the power tools, the
Yes.
flamethrower, and
Yeah, very, very detailed.
gorgeous looking game.
Yeah, the Ripper.
One of our favorites. I know Blaine, you love this one.
Oh yeah. Look at that Ripper.
The Ripper, what it cuts
So we
people
saw the
into
flamethrower, we saw the Ripper.
necromorphs in
Yes.
pieces. It's gory. It's fantastic.
Awesome. Cool. So, what I'd like to talk a little about now is the part that we've all been waiting for.
Oh boy.
To show how we're creating our visuals in 4 in-depth videos. So the goal here is to give a sneak peek of our art process by showing work-in-progress captures from software.
All right.
So, in the first video, the environment team will take us behind the scenes and show how our chapters are constructed from beginning to end.
Chapter
The
1
second
to
video,
12.
the VFX team is going to follow up with some pyro and fluid simulations in gyms and some quality upgrades. Next up, character team will present how they built the level 3 engineering suit and, of course, the slasher. And in the last video, the lighting team will walk us through some of the cool tech behind the lighting in the game.
Lighting's very
including
important.
Real-time global illumination and volumetric lighting.
So a lot to come there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of goodies.
All right, well,
So-
let's kick it off with the environment video.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Roy Toison, and I am the Associate Art Director for the Dead Space Remake. Today, I want to talk to you about the environment art process,
All right.
how we are remaking the game with our new tools, techniques, and pipelines, and finally do a demo in the Frostbite engine on how we took a room from the legacy version to our current work in progress.
All right.
Today, we are going to look at the MRI room in Chapter 2.
Uh-huh.
When Dead Space was released more than 14 years ago, the visuals were great. It set the bar high for its time. But since then, technology has evolved.
Obviously.
And with that, it allowed us to remake the game and really accentuate the main pillars of horror, immersion, and a lived-in world. Let me quickly go over our process with you. On the environment side, we break down our pipeline into 6 phases that go from L0 to L5. L0 is our R&D phase where we analyze the original game and identify what we can remake this area, either through gameplay, visuals, sound, etc. Based off any changes, we would do some exploration concepts to improve on the art pillars.
Hello. Yeah, is the
L1.
Puker going to be in the remake?
This phase is when the area will be playable, with rough blockout of the visual intentions. When recreating a room in Frostbite, the artist will break it down into kits, pieces that they can use to build the room. Think of this as Lego blocks.
Yeah, Legos.
They will be simple shapes, sizes that represent the theme of the room. L2 is where details and colors are added into the kits to support the thematic of the area. Large props are staged, and the initial mood will be set. L3 is where we start to update the different PBR materials to a more realistic look, add more props to support the theme, and refine the lighting and VFX. You should start to get that immersive feeling by having the area more relatable and believable. L4 is where we add all the narrative elements. All the architectural kits get a polish pass with a wear and tear. Small props, signs, markings, bloodstains, dirt, and grime are added to get that lived-in world feeling
Yeah,
and
there's
give that
definitely a lot of
horror
props.
storytelling element.
Like I say, little plants,
L5
wheelchairs.
polished elements of all the art
There's
departments.
nothing. When you came here, it actually completely cut it off.
Okay, there's a little bit of overlap.
This
Live streams.
So me and Roman had
Just to
audio.
get a
Mike
proper
didn't.
understanding of where we are in the production for this area, we are here in the beginning stages of our L4 phase. Now that you know how we work, we want to next demonstrate how we will remake these assets. Here is an example of a legacy asset.
You hear the video?
And here are some of the
I don't hear
elements we
anything.
plan on
So
adding
I can hear it.
immersive feeling throughout the ship. We want to show functionality. Rivets in the metal to show how it was put together. Latches on the window frames to show how the workers can remove it if it ever needed to be repaired.
True.
The variation in our PBR materials, the way light reacts to different types of painted metal versus the raw metal underneath. More realistic light fixtures. The dirty glass cover protects the light sources, giving that depth and more realistic feel. Add more shape and depth to the model to give it that believable look. To get that old lived-in ship look, we added wear and tear to the paint metal and dirt accumulation in areas that would not normally get cleaned. Now that we've highlighted a few examples of how we're going to remake an asset, in our next section, we want to put you in the seat of an artist and show you how our tools, techniques, and pipeline works.
Hi there, I'm Evan Jovanovic, Senior Environment Artist on the Dead Space Remake, and I'm going to give you a closer look at how we make assets for the Ishimura.
Alright.
Here is an example wall asset as it passes through all the various stages of production. L1, raw model made to specific metrics for maximum reuse. L2, further refined modeling and color pass added. L3, more modeling details are added.
When they say L1, 2, and 3, I think of like PlayStation controller.
Tools. L4, fine trim and embedded details are added as well as beveled edges. Next, we will have a look in Maya to see how the color pass is achieved. Here in Maya, we'll be using the Palette UV tool created by our tech team to help change the colors of our wall mesh. On the right-hand side, we can see the UV coordinates of the model, which correspond to the mesh's faces. As I click the different swatches in the UV palette tool, the UV shells are moved to different quadrants, resulting in a color change. By using this palette system, we are able to keep colors consistent to art direction and swap in different palette textures for each district theme, such as clean, industrial, and public, depending on the assets used within the ship. Now, let's dig into how some of our mesh details are achieved. Here in Blender, I'm going to show you one of our trim sheet texture sets.
Yeah, once again, this is the more technical side.
Dead space into a
You know,
new
the more
texture.
nerdy side.
As
So
you can
yeah,
see,
I'm
this
just
texture
here
set uses
sitting
so
and
much
just
3D mapping, which
listening,
allows you to mimic
paying
depth and
attention
details on
somewhat.
otherwise very simple geometry.
Not really talking a whole lot.
One technique we have explored for applying these texture sets on models is using the third-party add-on decal machine to define specific parts of the texture set to a library, which can then be easily swapped and adjusted on the model. As you can see, this technique makes it fun to try out different trim combinations and can produce some interesting results.
Very orange, mix and match.
Here we will apply the same library to the wall example we saw before. Through use of these trim textures, we are able to quickly try different approaches and create consistent details. We try our best to focus on how these models would actually be constructed, creating panel lines where pieces meet and connect, as well as adding handles and access points where parts could be removed for maintenance and cleaning.
Yeah, that sure is a lot of detail for just one window,
I'm Xavier
pretty much.
Perrault, and I am the lead environment artist on the Dead Space remake. I will be talking more in the details about our approach to level art and how we set the tone of the different areas of the ship and tell the story of the Ishimura through our environments. We have now the architectural modules modeled and their mask baked using our engine tool. The masks will define how the wear and grime build up on each of the modules. You can tell how the edges are scratched and how rust sits in the creases. The architectural shader reads those masks, and by tuning the parameters of the master shader, we can control the amount of wear and grime in a whole section of the ship at once. The shader defines the ground state of the architecture visuals, but at this point it all looks the same everywhere. The world masking volumes come in play. They are fully scalable and can be used in many ways for multiple layering effects. We can increase the amount of wear or rust built up on the assets, or even add new layers on top, like water or dust, for instance. Of course, these techniques are better applied once the assets are put in context, in the level. Tuning the master shader and adding volumes of world masking are an integral part of defining the storytelling of the ship and how it has aged over time. With a growing library of architectural modules, they can be assembled to fully build all the sections of the Ishimura as one big interconnected ship in line.
Yeah, this does kind of remind me of Forge World, or Forge in general, in Halo.
Then comes the main lighting intentions and the props dressing. We always ask ourselves what the function of that room is, how do we make it believable, and tell the story of the people that live there and how the events took place. Projected decals of labeling and gore are tapped further. We can add a few world masking volumes to wear down the floor in a realistic way where people used to.
Yeah, that looks like an audio log right there. Like, yeah, I recognize that ship.
Maybe a
Not
water
to mention it has a
canister
little light on
over
it.
near that desk and leaked all over the floor. But that was a while ago, and rust built up all around it.
After seeing our pipeline, tools, and in-engine demo, using the small room besides the MRI machine, you can see in this before and after comparison, we remade this room to accentuate the art pillars even more.
Yeah, I can see that.
We want the player to believe that the Ishimura crew worked here, that the functionality of this room makes sense, and you can even imagine yourself working in this environment.
Yeah.
If I take this part of the room, for example, before there used to be some shelves, lockers, and props around the wall with some writing on the ground. We remade it to have more immersive and believable theme. We made this corner of the room more functional by adding an examination bed with medical equipment. We gave that lived-in world by aging the walls and floors with some wear and tear, added dirt and grime. This is the oldest functioning mining ship. We wanted to make sure that came through in the environment. Finally, we injected the horror pillar into this room with a bloody narrative scene on the bed and floor. We want to insinuate that something horrible happened here and give that sense of danger looming around every corner.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us on this behind-the-scene look at the environment art process.
You're welcome. What the heck?
We're back.
Hey, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
So, Blaine, can we hear you now? Do you hear us?
I hear you. Are you
And we
there?
hear you.
Yeah, we hear each other.
Hey, what's up,
Isaac
Blaine?
got comms working. Nice. Now, Isaac, get to the engine room.
There's work to be
of
done
course.
there.
Yes, it's the Ishimura, right?
You know, it wouldn't be Dead Space if everything was working smoothly. So,
Good point.
this was just a little Easter egg for you in the
Like
chat.
nothing
Thanks
works
for
around
coming
here.
out and catching the live stream, showing you that true Dead Space experience. And man, we in the council got to play a little bit of this early on, and that was a much emptier room when we walked into it, a lot less scary. It's really cool to see that. To keep with that horror pillar, you're creating these little scenes in rooms, these little stories. Is the story department working with the art department to like write little things like that?
Yes, absolutely. Our narrative group works with our level art group and make sure that they're collaborating and looking at every single chapter of the game, area by area, and coming up with little stories that they want to tell to make it feel like each area has life and there's a story, and just to show how the crew lived right before the events that you see in the game, and of course after the attack and so on. So there's a lot of work that's placed there by the team as they're crafting this.
It's a really collaborative effort between narrative, level design, level art, audio. Everybody is really involved into that. And not only we're looking at what we want to do, but also most of the time we're looking at what was in the original. And often we keep that and enhance it. Sometimes based on some evolution of the narrative that we want to make, we can slightly change or evolve those elements. But that's really our goal, is to keep that pillar of the original that was each room, each corridor, each places had something unique. Something you could remember that room or that place because of that sound, because of that writing on the wall, because of the blood of the little narrative in that place. And that's something that we want to keep and that we want to reinforce going further.
Yeah, it's really great to hear about all the teams working together on this, and I love thinking about someone just walking around the office with an absolutely terrifying notebook of little rooms. A 1C, what happened in 1C? Dear God.
Yes.
Jump scare Bible.
Yes, pretty much. And that's one of the opportunities, like we saw in the video, is that we look at an area that existed before and how can we amp it up and enhance it, right? To have a richer experience in the storytelling.
And then one of the interesting things is that you guys are constantly talking about making things look realistic and usable. But of course, it's not realistic and usable. This is a planet-cracking mining ship. How do you approach making something look as though you can picture yourself using it and operating this when you can't actually, because it doesn't exist and you can't use it or operate it?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you gotta suspend your disbelief.
Originally, the horror pillar is making sure that it feels scary, but at the same time, it is relatable, right? So when you look at the locations, the props that are there, we intentionally make sure to keep them feeling realistic as possible, and not going too sci-fi. Because if you do that, then it alienates the player, and you don't really know.
Yeah, we don't exactly want to look like Tron or Forerunner, Halo
continue
stuff.
In the same vein of keeping objects, whether it's the MRI room,
very shiny, bright blue lights, that kind of stuff.
As real to us as possible, so we can
light bridges, portals, that kind of stuff.
In the world, and then of course we'll be scared when we have like a necromorph that comes out of nowhere. Right? We'll have our guard down.
It's about making these places understandable for the player, that can project yourself in trying to imagine how those things work. Like if there's massive engine, okay, where's the console that control that? If it's the MRI, same thing. Where are the people actually working with those stuff? What are the tools they are using? Where are they sitting? All those kind of things. That's the elements that are making those places believable, even though a real spaceship does not necessarily exist, or at least not in this form.
It still has to be functional, right? So when we do concepts for these pieces that are more complicated, or the hero pieces, it is a lot the work that the concept teams are looking at. They're trying to make sure that this machine would work. How would it work so that it is functional when we put it in a game and it makes sense?
Yeah, it just seems like everybody on this team has to know a lot of different things.
It's about
but
the
you know, we've been
passion of
talking.
making it. That's
We've
the
been
thing.
talking a little bit. You know, we had some little explosions tech-wise. I think you guys also have some explosions to show us.
Explosions.
Oh yeah, that's a
a
good
nice
segue.
transition.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time you do this.
So let's take a look at the VFX.
Yes, the visuals, the effects.
Hi everybody, I'm Greg Herdrudder and I'm the lead VFX artist on the Dead Space remake. What I'm going to show you today is some of the atmospheric and environmental VFX that have been created by our team. These are VFX such as fog, smoke, and pyrotechnics that help populate the Ishimura and help tell the Dead Space narrative.
All right.
Now, before I show you what we're doing, let's take a look at the original Dead Space and what they did for their environmental VFX. They did an amazing job in setting a very desaturated color palette. Everything very muted, and everything feels very natural. Nothing feels fantastical or takes you out of that horror mood. For the remake, we wanted to stay true to this, but look for opportunities to push things further using modern-day techniques. The original was quite limited in terms of complexity of VFX, while we have a lot more room to move.
Yeah.
The first thing I'd like to show you is how some of our VFX can react to changing environmental conditions. So here we have a debug scene, and as you can see, it's pretty much empty with some sparks and drips. These are pretty typical VFX that we'll see in a number of locations in the Ishimura to show damaged areas.
Yeah.
What I'd like to show you is how these effects can react to changing environmental conditions, and in this case, what happens when gravity is disabled.
Ooh.
I'm going to disable the gravity here. And right now we can see
Nice.
that these VFX are behaving
And
differently.
little water
They're no longer
droplets
falling to the floor.
floating.
Now there's a lot more happening than just the gravity. I can make a number of artistic choices as to how the VFX behave. For example, with the drips, I wanted to extend their lifetime so they spread out across the room rather than disappear quickly. For the sparks, I reduced their turbulent motion because when they had a lot of turbulence, it felt like they were still in normal conditions. There's a number of things that we can modify so that when the player interacts with these effects, they'll feel believable and well integrated. These little details can really add up to help tell the story and make the Ishimura feel like it's alive.
So
Next,
cool
I'd like
stuff.
to show you a little bit about our pyrotechnics pipeline. I'm looking at one of our explosion effects. This is something we'd see when a small prop is getting destroyed. Here we have a bunch of different elements, like a fireball, smoke, sparks, and debris. I'll hide a few of these so we can concentrate just on the fire and smoke. I'll set this to loop so we can see it continually playing. Something that is important to Dead Space is that we have a lot of dark environments that have changing lighting conditions. We were finding that elements such as fire and explosions would look way too bright when the environment was dark, and then would be barely visible when the environment was brighter. So what we had to do was to be sure that our source pyrotextures were rendered in full HDR quality to ensure that the final image would contain the full range of brightness values. I'll slow this down a bit so we can see things a bit more clearly. If I zoom in, the exposure will adjust.
Yeah, that's
so
what
it
you were
doesn't
seeing in
appear
slow-mo,
too
guys.
blown out, and when I back off, it will readjust. If I change this to a darker environment, you'll see that we don't get a crazy amount of overbrightness, and we're still able to see a lot of detail in the texture. And finally, I'll go to pitch black. It still holds up and behaves naturally. So this all means that we can play a lot with the lighting in our environments, and the VFX will still integrate into the experience well and be legible by the player. The final thing I wanted to show is our interactive atmospherics. So here I am in another test map. I have a few debug lights floating around so we can see what's happening here. I'll just back up and start one of our Steam effects. So what do we have here? It's a volume-based 3D simulation. It exists inside a container, and density and velocity values are pushed around to create what we see here. Something that's cool about this simulation is that it lives in the physics world, so if the player walks through it, it will interact. Also, if I pick up an object, like this battery, it will also behave quite naturally. This will work if I spawn an enemy. I disabled its AI, so it won't attack me.
Obviously.
As you can see, the stand will collide and interact with him too.
Yeah, you're disgusting.
This effect
I love
also
it.
works quite well with our lighting and renders with the rest of the fog we have throughout our game. This can be used in a number of cases. We can create a steam or smoke effect like this, or we can cover the floor with a thin layer of interactive fog. In some cases, we can even fill an entire
Yeah, that's
room
quite a
with
detailed
a
necromorph.
simulation like this to give us some interesting and terrifying gameplay situations. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the VFX we're working on.
Okay.
Smooth.
Ooh, man, that fog when you first showed it to us. Oh,
that cool?
wow. They just So I've never been so excited about fog in my life. It's crazy to think that, you know, one of the first truly great horror sci-fi movies, Alien, came out almost 40 years ago. And that scene where they step out into the eggs and there's that layer of fog that they disturb. And now we're finally 40 years later able to kind of do that kind of stuff in video games.
I know.
How are you planning on using this in the gameplay?
So, of course, something we're going to use to create specific ambience in rooms for the storytelling and those kind of elements. But in gameplay, where it's really amazing, it's in sequences like, for example, the decontamination chamber in Chapter 3. So when you enter that room, the decontamination sequence starts and the room fills with fog. And the fog stays at around 1 meter off the floor. And where it gets awesome, it's when you actually have a lurker dropping from the ceiling inside the fog. And now you see the poof of smoke when he gets inside it, and you're like, where is he going? And you start to shoot at it, and you're trying to find it. And at some point, you see those 3 tentacles coming out of the fog. And those moments are really, really scary. And that's the kind of thing we're looking at with that technology. It's how we can use it to reinforce ambience and really scary gameplay moments like that.
So are they going to add a lurker in that room?
So cool to see all the
slashers in a
you keep
leaper.
bringing out all this technology, and it's not technology that's just, oh hey, we can do this now and we're doing it because we can do it. Everything really is tied to like a narrative element. Every time you're like, we can do this, but here's why we're doing this. And another area that's getting such a huge upgrade is, you know, one of the challenges the original Dead Space had was 0G is very difficult to do, and obviously it was
not that difficult. You just have to get used to it.
And then Dead Space 2, a bit more of the shackles came off, and then now up to current day, you know, you're having floating sparks and all the changes to the water and the vapor in 0G. Does it feel kind of like you have your shackles removed and you're kind of able to finally make the 0G experience you kind of dreamed of?
Yeah, it's really about immersion and the fantasy of space and how believable that is. And so that's one of the reasons we changed a little bit how the 0G is working in terms of player mechanic compared to the original. That's why we choose to go the same way as Dead Space 2 and 3 went with 0G. And now with VFX, with art, with physics, etc., it's about improving the immersion of 0G. And not only improving the immersion when you're in 0G, but also putting the emphasis at the moment where it changed from 1G to 0G. And that's something we're doing in some areas of the ship, and we wanted that to be really visible and kind of a wow moment for the players.
Yeah. It's also giving us the opportunity to do all the things we've wanted to do with Dead Space. Now we get to do those things. We really get to enhance all those areas, bring more life to them, bring more immersion, and always dialing up the horror as well, right? And make it feel like it's a scary place. So.
All right.
Yeah, because with those elements, with immersion and interactivity, comes horror. Now when that sparks of electricity hits and you see all those things bouncing on you, etc., it reinforces the potential jump scare moment of that thing. It's not just audio and the cool VFX. No, it really also has impacts on you, and
it's part of the physics system, so it reacts properly to whatever rules we have within the game, with the character, with the collision. So like Greg said in the video, that's what makes it so amazing and so embedded, and just enhances the immersion for every element that we're adding.
Yeah, I mean, certainly anyone that's accidentally set themselves on fire with an angle grinder while working in a shop is going to sparks into motion.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
But hey, you know, there when people were noticing in that 0G, they were noticing some things about Isaac's suit, and I think we get to have a bit of a closer look at the
closer
changes
look
that have been made to Isaac's suit coming up.
Yep, we're gonna get to see that in the next section. In fact, so let's take a look at the character video, so we can see all the changes we're making and all the upgrades to the engineering suit, and then we'll
This should be
take
exciting.
a look at the slasher. So let's take the video.
Hello everyone, I'm Sam Compagna and I'm the lead character artist on the Dead Space remake. I'm here today to give you a sneak peek on how we created the Isaac Intermediate Engineer suit, the slasher, and talk about our artistic process and our tools. Before I get started, I'd like to warn you that I will be showing some graphic content. There will be blood and guts. Well,
I'm used to
everything
it.
that makes Dead Space so lovely. Let's start with Isaac Intermediate Engineer suit.
Alright.
During the early phase of our project, we took inspiration from the legacy model and we followed the rules that made Isaac's suit so iconic.
Yep.
Looking at the ribbing that is inspired by Gothic architectures and human anatomy, the three lines on his helmet, and the overall layered look that reminds us this is a worker's outfit and not a military uniform. This was the thinking we used as we redesigned the suit for our remake. We were tempted to go in a science fiction direction, but kept the suit design low-tech, dusty, dirty, and greasy. We kept in mind that the suit was produced by a greedy corporation like CEC and was built in an utilitarian way, with a low production cost. And so, here we are with the new design, making it functional. And as you can see, we made sure the suit was airtight at the seams to make it feel believable for use in outer space.
Yep.
Here we are in ZBrush, where the character model is sculpted as if it was formed by digital clay. This is where we do most of our sculpting and where we spend most of our time creating the character. The head is worked in a separate file and in a different way as it is based on of Gunner's Right's head scan, and come with all its facial expressions.
I did not like that. Yeah, that's an ick.
The helmet is worked on separately as well because of the size of the file, as it tends to slow us down. As you can see here, we worked on the outside and
Now, they
inside
even have
of
a
the
speaker?
helmet.
I mean, that's
So-
definitely interesting.
Since you already saw Isaac in-game on the previous live stream, I will use this time to take you on a tour of Substance Painter, which is a texturing software.
Yeah, I already see blood on this suit.
There are plenty of layers to get to the final result. It goes from the base of the fabric to the dirt and many metal variations. This is here as well that we add micro detail like fabrics and grain. The design of the suit was purposely kept low cost. We also avoided rare material like leather due to its rarity on Earth in the Dead Space universe. We used
very detailed.
synthetic
I'm very impressed.
material and dull metal that oxidized quickly. We took as reference real-world miners from the 30s, and like them, Dead Space universe miners are given cheap outfit because company didn't equip them well and didn't care about their safety. Now that we've seen Isaac's suit, I'd like to show you a slasher, since there is always one waiting around the corner, or busting out of a vent. We researched the legacy concept and model, taking note what made the slasher a memorable enemy, with its claw-shaped arm and deformed body. Not only the design itself was important to our new slasher, but it was equally important to make it satisfying to dismember and peel away its layers.
Yep.
Here are some visual development on how we wanted to dismember the slasher from its intact state to the fully destroyed one, with all the phases in between. Some peeling, dismemberment with hanging parts, and finally the fully dismembered version.
They're very gory. Yeah, staying on one leg.
So, we started to think about the inside. This is the part that will be revealed when you shoot at the necromorphs. Naturally, we wanted to expose its internal organs since this was the base of our recipe.
Yeah, you're going to see
Then
all
show
the
it bones,
organs,
muscles, and fat.
and the lungs, and the intestines, and
We
muscle.
didn't want it to see all the
bone.
muscles, as it's only supposed to
A lot
reveal
of
the
layers,
wounded
lot of
part made
layers.
by Isaac's tools. The next question we asked ourselves was, how could we build a system that fit most of the necromorph? Well, the solution was to cut it in pieces. As you can see, all the parts are separated. This way, we could use them as we wanted, like for the brute, which is made of 3 humans, we can easily kit batch its skeleton this way. All internal organs are also separated. This way, we could use them as we wish. Now that we covered the inside of the slasher, let's see where we are with the outside. We sculpted it in ZBrush, thinking about how the skin stretched and tore as the limb grew up very quickly during a very painful transformation.
I know.
The layering is important here, as well as what the open wound will reveal. We have the skin, fat, muscle, cartilage, bones, and we need to see and understand each part. Now, I will jump straight into Painter. Just like for
So
Isaac
gory.
and all our model, we sculpted them in ZBrush. But here, the texturing and materials are more interesting. First, while we are currently only showing a single skin tone, since the Ishimura is crewed by humans from all corners of the galaxy, it makes sense that our slasher reflects a wide range of ethnicities in the final game. You will notice that we reduce the amount of blood and dirt present before you start shooting at it to enhance the visual feedback of the peeling process. Finally, let me show you how we textured this little fellow, adding layers and layers of details to make it more realistic. We start with a plain color as base, and then we add some layers that will have an influence on the reflection, color, and micro volumes. We took care to think about how the wounded skin would look like, bloody, but yellowish when it's dried of blood. Then we added some more subtle details like veins, moles, and pimples. And to finish, let's add, well, you've already guessed what? Blood. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the Isaac suit and the slasher work in progress.
Alright, so thank you. So good stuff, good stuff.
You gotta love that even in production of the game, you have to keep the parts of the necromorph separated. Otherwise, you'll have necromorphs running all over your computer. You won't be able to get anything done in ZBrush. A necromorph will be swiping at you.
You got to keep them separated.
Yeah.
And then you got to keep adding more and more blood. That's the secret.
Yeah, more blood,
Always more.
That's
More.
his secret
We want
identity,
more
by
here.
the way.
Yeah.
It's Yazilla. That's how they call him in the team.
Yazilla wants more all the time.
I need more.
Hey,
Never satisfied.
we've got a saying over at Banger TV: less is not more is more, and love seeing that in a Dead Space game as well. I mean, the peeling effects, the ripping effects, it seems subtle, but it's such a massive gameplay change when you try it out. The first time you hit a necromorph in the head and the face is gone and you're left with a skull, it's like it's an entirely new enemy. At what point in the development process did you kind of realize, hey, maybe we could do something like this?
Yeah, pretty early. It was quite early on.
It came almost at the beginning of the project, and the idea was like, okay, so we were looking at elements that we could improve or enhance in the original, and of course, dismemberment, it's the pillar of Dead Space. It's in terms of gameplay, it's the main thing. So, in terms of precision, in the original, in Dead Space 2 and 3, it's already pretty precise. So we're like, okay, maybe we can go a bit more precise, but it's not gonna add that extra impact. And so that's where we started to discuss, okay, let's add the precision, not in terms of how you cut enemies, but in terms of the point of impact. And so that's where we started thinking. And earlier on, we did not call that peeling, we were actually calling that body destruction. Because it was that concept that we wanted to see precisely the point of impact, and we wanted to see pieces of enemies flying, and so give the opportunity to the player to really dig up to the bone before starting to cut the necromorph. So that's where we started, and iterating from here, that's where when we go, okay, so we need peeling layers with flesh, muscles, internal organs that can get blown out when you shoot them in the belly or in the head, or those kind of things. And the goal behind that was like, yes, of course, to make it more gruesome, etc. But quickly on, we figured that we were also improving something really core to the gameplay, which is the feedback you have when you shoot an enemy. Because in Dead Space, in the original, you get a lot of good feedback when you're shooting an enemy with a cutting weapon, like with the plasma cutter, you cut body parts, etc. You get a strong sense of, okay, how much damage I did. But when you're using the flamethrower, and you're starting to burn the opponent, how much damage did you do? When you're using the force gun, you shoot at him, the necromorph goes on his ass, he stands up.
Yep.
Okay, how effective was that thing to the
How truly effective are these
pretty
weapons
good
or
feeling,
tools?
pretty strong feedback of that, because you see the flesh burning and then you start to see the muscle underneath it, etc. When you're using the force gun, and the guy stands up and you see that all the flesh is gone and the muscle is gone, and no, you can see the bones and the rib cage. You're like, yeah, okay, I did some damage here.
That worked.
Yeah.
That's really the goal here.
And there's a lot of research that we did also looking at lots of gore and bloody stuff.
I don't want to see
just taking a couple of trips to the butcher shop, leaving with a big bag of organs. Sorry, hey, do you know where a hardware store is? I need some hammers.
Yeah, we're on a list somewhere. And we did a lot of explorations early on. We really pushed it quite far, make it like really bloody, really disgusting, and it was a lot of fun. But we also wanted to make sure that it was readable, that it didn't get too complex and too detailed, and it could still read in that environment. And I think we found a pretty good balance. So we're really psyched to have shown you those results today.
All right.
Yeah, and then just all the language involved in the remake of Dead Space is so great. Just coming home, honey, good news! The budget approved body destruction.
Lots of glistening parts.
It's the expense reports that are hard to do, but that's, we manage.
So one of the other things that's just such a little detail, but really kind of brings back to that lived-in world pillar you're talking about is a detail that just jumped out to me when you're saying it. You're going through Isaac's suit, and you're mentioning that there's no leather on it because cows are gone, and if you've got leather, you're pretty rich.
Exactly. We always have to factor that in, right? Even though we can do something, even though we have the tech, even though we could do that, it doesn't necessarily mean we should. We have to look at the narrative of the game, think of resource conservation, and always plan and design with that in mind. And that's something that we did. Like early on, his suit had those leather parts, but we go, but they wouldn't really have that. So we went with a synthetic material that still
have leather
looks
in the
like
future.
it, but it has to be more accurate. So there's a lot of thought that's put into every single thing that you see on the suits to make it more functional, to make it more credible, more realistic. But as always, respecting the original vision, the art direction, and being true to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure cosplayers are going to thank you for the lack of use of leather, but they're going to be really mad when they find out that there's little thrusters on his back that move as he's going around in zero G.
Sorry. It's fun in the game.
Good details.
Now, it's obviously really hard to follow up something like characters, and you've got lighting as the last, the kind of the big pillar to close out the show, and it might seem a little surprising to people, but I think when you show all this stuff that you've done with lighting, they're gonna kind of really understand why we're going there.
Yes. We have a really cool lighting video to show, and you're gonna see the behind the scenes of how we're making it, all the different light fixtures that are used, the color temperatures, the mood and feeling. So let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Mike Yeomans,
The
and I'm the
lighting.
lighting lead here at Motive. Today my teammates and I are going to talk a bit about the lighting on Dead Space Remake. First of all, we're going to talk about how we are recreating the fantastic lighting design of Dead Space 1. We'll follow up with our lighting process and advances in real-time lighting. And lastly, we'll show you how we create an immersive sense of atmosphere, which is an important visual pillar for us. Dead Space had iconic design down to the last detail, and the lighting fixtures weren't left out of this equation. They just felt unique and that they fit into the design of the ship perfectly. We have reimagined the lighting design of the Ishimura and Valor, staying true to the originals while creating additional fixtures that fit into this established direction. The fixture design feels modern while the bulb technology feels grounded in the present day. We are creating the illusion of depth in our fixtures so you can see the inner workings of the bulb beyond the glass using emissive shaders with a parallax effect. The brightness of the fixture respects the intensities of their real-world counterparts, and our lighting system uses the surface area of our emissive surfaces to determine how bright the bulbs get. Our volumetric lighting creates realistic cones of light that are unique to each fixture design, so we get really interesting shards of light with a hint of color. Much like in the real world, we use Kelvin temperature to determine the hue of our lights, so once again they feel familiar to what you would expect in real life.
Yep.
Area lights were previously reserved mostly for cinematics due to their increased performance cost. We are using them more extensively in Dead Space Remake, as they help to create convincing specular shapes, diffused lighting and shadows, and a more accurate volumetric shape. Simply put, they have lighting qualities that standard spotlights just can't achieve. Area lights make the most sense for rectangular-looking light fixtures, such as signage. It would have been hard to reproduce the lighting from these types of sources with more punctual lights.
Hi, my name is Mathieu Tétrault, and I'm a senior lighting artist on Dead Space Remake. Our lighting artists are able to craft the lighting in real time and control exactly how much indirect light or global illumination is bouncing around the scene. In previous game, we had to do offline calculation to pre-compute lighting and apply it to geometry in the form of light maps. This was time-consuming for artists and will limit any drastic lighting changes. Our remake is using a new GPU probe system which allow real-time approximation of indirect light.
Like all those balls.
Artists can get direct feedback from the change and can better match the amazing concept art. Our tools allow lighting artists to visualize individual lighting passes and material properties, to isolate issues and iterate on quality. As each light is activated and dialed in, we can see the bounce lighting react in real time. This approach was essential to ensure we can accommodate all the drastic lighting changes that occur in real time in front of the player. Scary lighting changes,
Hi.
one scene,
Ooh.
light flickering. We place fixture in the ship much like it would have been assembled in a shipyard. Then we give an area a distinct character by changing the behavior and setting on each fixture instance. This allows each area to have its own signature mood, ambience, and level of horror. We focus on developing credible light behavior, such as flickering, that is specific to different types of light, from fluorescent to incandescent and halogen. Imagine an old fluorescent light tube constantly flickering while trying to turn on. In this video, we can see how the electrical current is driving the behavior of different fixture technology, from fluorescent to incandescent.
Hi, I'm Guillaume Goudreau.
Right,
I'm
I
lead
get
also
stuff.
slider on Dead Space team. In game development, we often use fog to help simulate atmospheric perspective and add ambience to a level. It is used to communicate a sense of depth and detach the different elements of the background. In Dead Space, the atmosphere of the ship is one of the key contributors of the sense of horror. To create that atmosphere, we've gone one step further. We are putting a lot of energy into creating a realistic volumetric fog solution. First, we need a lot of control to create the dreadful atmosphere expected in Dead Space. With our system, we can simulate a layered fog approach. We have control over the texture that move and shift inside of the fog. We can control the speed of the movement and detail in the texture. We can recreate a fog creeping along the floor. We have also control over the absorption. It gives the feeling of a thick, dense smoke that absorbs light. Very much like the smoke that collects on the ceiling during a fire. We can also control the color of the fog for those moments when we need a little extra punch. Second, we need a convincing light interaction with the fog. When we combine our lighting and the fog, we immediately see the impact. We can easily sculpt and tweak the shard of light cutting across the room. It really adds a lot to a scene. We can go from the simplest environment to a gloomy looking scene. Lastly, we need something flexible. Whenever we have a big change and we need to adjust the mood of the scene, we can animate and adjust the environment fog. This is especially useful when we do transition from the inside of the USG Ishimura to the outside. We will be able to contrast the heavy ambience of our interior with the complete lack of atmosphere in the outer space.
Alright, cool. But my big question is, can we destroy the lights? Because that was something you could do in the previous games.
I can't believe there's some poor soul on the Ishimura who has to inventory every single different type of light bulb you put in there.
Yeah.
I don't know who has a harder job, Isaac or the light bulb guy.
Poor guy. All the lights that we have.
Still in the ship.
Oh, yeah.
It's the future, so energy saving energy, like it's what is needed there.
I definitely want to open a node door and not have any treasure in there, just a wall full of different light bulbs, just racks and racks.
That would be kind of funny.
So the thing about lighting, though, is from the stuff you've shown, the amazing stuff I've gotten to see, it really seems like the narrator in Dead Space is lighting, and you're kind of using it almost as a silent character.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, and that's how we're crafting all of our scenes, right? Like we purposely will set the scene, and making sure that the lights are placed in the right areas, and also as you saw in the video, there's different types of lights, light fixtures, temperatures, so that we can control and craft the experience that the player has in every area.
And we also use lighting to direct the player to where we want him to go, either for objectives or to where we want him to go, either for objectives, but also sometimes to surprise the person with either like a jump scare or not, like drive the tension up, just playing with expectations, player expectations. So that's what lighting is used for by our team, and it's just.
Yeah, and I also noticed one really subtle thing about lighting is that one of the sparse few criticisms of the original game is that it was very brown. And it seems like there's a lot of use of light to kind of change mood, a little bit of color without going overboard. Because obviously, I mean, even just as something as subtle as going from a warm light to a cold light, and I went from looking like I'm in a cozy basement to like I'm ill, right? So yeah, all these little splashes of color that don't break the kind of drab, scary feeling, but kind of give you that little bit of visual breakup through it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and that's it. Like we still wanted to retain that horror pillar. Like I said earlier, is that making sure that we don't, in an effort to add more diversity to all the different areas, we didn't want to, be too saturated, too colorful.
There needs to be a balance.
Just have enough emotion and, play with the intensity of the lights so that we have more of that feeling of variety in the different levels. Yeah.
We're adding more tools to make sure that each room is unique. More cookies.
All right, you're on to me.
Feed Yazilla.
And in true horror fashion, we didn't have one fog presentation. We had two fog presentations. I mean, Silent Hill fans in the chat will probably be happy to hear how much fog work we're getting. What's the kind of difference between the two fogs and the one you kind of showed here? Where are you going to use that? How is that going to be applied?
But if you ever played the original Dead Space, you know that we had to work hard on the fog because there's a lot of those in the game. It's used a lot to create different ambience, etc. And so that's why we felt we need those two different pieces of technology. One that is a bit more diffuse, that we use in bigger environment, like the engine room, chapter 3, or this kind of environment, in order to create that depth and be able to have those different layers of lights and stuff. And one, like we talked before, really for specific moments, specific ambience where we want maybe smaller room with a bigger feel of being isolated and alone inside that room, where the fog is going to be more dense, and we'll be able to play a bit more with it.
And from what I understand, we might actually get to see some of that happening in dare I say in game?
Yes, actual gameplay.
Maybe soon, maybe. I think we also have a little bit. We're getting a little collector's edition treatment here, where we've also got some pretty gorgeous concept art that I've seen to show the people to get them all excited, all on edge before we give a little gameplay.
Yes, absolutely. So what I wanted to do is I want to show some cool concept art of the engineering deck. But just very quickly before I do that, I want to take this moment to thank the art team for all their hard work. They're super, super passionate about working on this game. They put in a lot of hours, and there's a lot of love and care in making sure that we get this right. We do justice to the original, and we honor it. So we're super fans ourselves, and we hope that comes through in the work that you're seeing today. So once again, thank you, team. So to kick it off, so here's the concept art of the fuel depot to show you how the pillars of horror, immersion, and a lived-in world all come together in this industrial themed chapter. So I'm just going to quickly go through them. Here you can see the fuel storage concept. You could see the machine shop. And time again, we're always applying those same rules with lighting, with VFX, fog, volumetrics. So this is the first concept of the machine room. And then here's one more we love, just so you can see the suits hanging.
The suits on the right.
Yeah.
Give me that. Give me that.
Yeah.
I'll take one.
That's it. We're always thinking of how the crew would work and live on the Ishimura to make it, exactly, make it credible and lived in. And then the last two concepts I just wanted to show was of the engine room. So this is one of the most iconic areas in the chapter 3 engineering deck. And so here it is in the off state.
Dismemberment demos.
It's looking very dark, it's very ominous. And then here it is in the on state. As you can see, we're dialing up the intensity by using color and light to show the visual progress and build emotion and bring this area to life.
So like we said at the start, we're still pre-alpha. However, what we're going to show right now in game is actually something that we have spent a bit of time polishing. Like if we were saying that this is pre-alpha, it wouldn't be entirely true. There's been some work done by our team to bring it to L4 to have a higher level of quality. So this is closer to the level of quality that we'd expect for the entire game. There's still some work left on our side, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We're still not yet ready to ship that.
Not ready to ship, but
yeah, we're still roughly a year away.
I love referring to the footage we're about to see. They were not even the footage, the live gameplay we're about to see as pre-alpha. It's doesn't look pre-alpha to me.
All right.
Let's look at the engine room.
Take a look.
It's in a specific state in the sense that all the AI got removed, etc. So it's really to showcase the environment. So if we can switch to the in-engine gameplay, please.
All right.
And then, of course, the goal
and those moving parts.
We wanted to show all of you how we've crafted this story. How all the different elements that we've shown.
My name is Mike.
The presentation.
We have the video of lights playing at the same time.
Just a second. Okay.
There's some fantastic lighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some good stuff.
Yeah. So just like we saw in the concept, it's dark. It's really hard to see what's out there, and we do that on purpose to contribute to the fear of the unknown, right? You don't know what's back there. We're doing that on purpose. But then there's just a little bit of life in there, just so that it's not a completely dead scene. And then as we look above us, we see the massive engine, and it makes us feel small and insignificant, right? It's looming. So as we're looking around, we see all those effects that you saw earlier in gyms. Now you see it here, steam coming out of the pipes. There's some secondary animation.
Yeah, see a power battery, which that wasn't there before.
It communicates that this is an industrial thematic. And then we're always leading the player with a little bit of horror storytelling, a little bit of narrative.
Funny how he shot the battery.
Tools and crates.
I love the masks on sign up there.
Yeah.
Quite thematic.
Safety first. Dead Space is a game about safety.
Yeah, safety. All right.
So in this state, now we're in a state where it's starting to, we've powered the room. So the engine is slowly starting to rotate, a little bit of life to it. Lights, you can see the blood.
You'll have to speak up. You booted up an engine.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's
Let's follow the blood trail then.
Let's do that.
Yeah, what can go wrong?
No.
It's always a good idea.
So here we go. This is the iconic poster that we saw earlier.
And let your
You can
tools
see the
do the
different
talking.
treatments on the blood, like the one that is still wet, blood that's got dried up on the side.
More is more. More types of blood. More blood states. More blood conditions.
Yeah. And then we finally get here, and we're Gonna activate the engines.
All right.
Turn it on.
Let's
Turn it on.
And we look up above us, and then we can see this.
Oof, that's
glorious,
bright.
VFX. The engine's fully operational. It's open. It's spinning at full speed. It's like a beating heart. As the room has come to life, and we have completed the transformation. And then as we look to the right, we witness the scene of a horrific bloodbath. And yeah, some bad stuff happened there.
Yeah.
Again, just that great teamwork between the environment artist and the story artist. Like, yes. I mean, you can really you can guess what happened there.
Yeah, that was definitely schematic, but I didn't saw what it said.
And then
I would have to go back and see what that said.
At the engine, and then the smoke-filled room. And that's it.
There's those sparks.
Yeah.
And that's it for today. We're gonna save some stuff for later. Okay.
Oh man, it's so like I said, you've been showing a lot of this to us for a long time now, and man, seeing the improvement every time, and just how amazing it's looking right now. I can't believe that's not like a finished product. I can't believe there's more work you're gonna do in there. It seems impossible.
That's the reason why we usually send these guys on press tour. There's always more work. So
yeah, there's always more work.
Go away. We have to wrap this up.
Wait, there's not There's plenty of stuff to do yet.
Yeah,
there's still plenty. More.
If they're talking to me, they can't be talking to anyone on the team. Tell them to put more stuff in the game.
That room is fully playable. There's a really cool fight situation happening. It's just deactivated for the reason of that stream, because we want to keep some more surprise for later. But I think you have something to say about that soon. But yes, like we said, we're pre-alpha, so the game is currently fully playable. Yes, that fight is fucking awesome.
All right.
Well, definitely. All right. Well, I guess we're actually nearing the end of the stream. So,
cool.
Blaine, I want to thank you for being with us today to discuss, to ask your questions away. It was great having you. And thank you for taking part. We're actually going to see you next week, right? So
yeah, see you in person. I'm gonna get a little hands-on action. I'm really excited. Thanks so much for including me. I mean, any opportunity I have to just gush about this game, whether it's the first one or the work you're doing right now, I'll gladly take any I can. So
great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Roman, Mike, thanks a lot. It's always great to see all of this come together for you to take part of this. Mike, I know it was a lot of work for you, our team, to create all of these videos, to create this amazing playable level. So thank you. It is important.
It's always an honor to be able to show the artwork.
Oh, for sure. We're here standing and looking smart, but it's like the team that actually did all the work. So it's important to actually state that. I want to thank the team at Motive, everyone from the art, but everyone that works on the project, our internal EA partners, our external EA partners, the passion, the love, the hard work that you're putting in this game, it really shows. And I hope that everyone that's watching today actually can recognize all the care and love that's going into creating those nice slashers and those nice moments. At this point, like I said early when you started the stream, we were able 2 weeks ago to do our first full walkthrough of the entire game. All features, the chapter structure, some novelties that we haven't yet talked about. It was all there for us to play. Our directors, Roman, Mike, everyone, the lead, the team, were able to exchange on, all right, well, what's next? How can we improve what we already have to be able to get an even higher quality game? From this, we're able to take all of these notes and plan the work that's ahead of us. Make sure that we have a smart way to tackle all of this to bring the game to a conclusion. So that's basically where we're at. So from a team perspective, we're going to put our head down and work towards the next objective that we have, which is going to be to do our gameplay reveal in October. Let's say close to Halloween.
All right, Halloween.
So that's going to be the next time where we're going to be broadcasting and talking about the game in a more substantial way. Also, we're actually in the position right now to be able to say that, well, our release date of January 27, 2023 is kind of right around the corner. It's getting by really fast. We're getting there. And we're definitely looking forward to be able to put the game in the hands of players. So mark your calendars, tell your friends, make sure that they know that the game's coming, because we want this game to be a success. We love Dead Space, so hopefully you're able to get that word out.
And hopefully you love Dead Space.
Oh, hopefully you love what we make for the remake. So I guess that's a wrap. Thank you for watching the live stream. We're going to read comments. We're going to read the feedback that you have. Hopefully there's plenty. And we're more than happy to have shown you a slice of the game today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye. So you're welcome. Okay. Well, yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. All right, well, so yeah, that was the crafting the detention live stream. So yeah, pretty good live stream, but of course there were some hiccups here and there. You know, there were some technical difficulties, but overall a pretty good live stream. So yeah, obviously we got like the lighting and the shadowing and the character models and the gore and the art direction, the immersion, making the issue more, a old yet, believable area. Like, just imagine taking today's, I don't know, factory and just put in a space, pretty much. So yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm still looking forward to this remake, and I'm still very hoping that it is a success, and hopefully EA doesn't rush it. I mean, yeah, we're still like another roughly a year away. They said around January next year. So yeah, and of course they did say that the I guess a finished product trailer will come out this October. So yeah, I'm very excited to see more of what the team is making. So yeah, and they said that in terms of content, it is pretty much ready. All the content's there. Chapter 1 through 12. But obviously there's a lot of more work to do. More polish. Making all that content, polish and make sure it doesn't just break on itself. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I just don't know what else to say. I mean, this was a pretty good live stream, and I'm looking forward to playing the Dead Space remake one of these days. And yeah, well, everyone, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.